Good morning. You're listening to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Walter Eckhardt, who's CEO with Kraus, one of the largest carpet producers in Canada. Walter, how you doing?
Very good. Nice to be with you, Kemp.
Yeah, good to talk to you. You know, we ran some news on you guys back in late May, early June, about an ownership change. I was wondering if you could catch us up to speed on that situation.
Sure. The background to that was that back in 2006, Kraus was the subject of a management buyout and came out of that highly leveraged. And, of course, that was long before anyone anticipated the big changes to the flooring market that would happen in 2007, 2008.
Right.
And so the company really had too much debt. It was profitable then, fabulously profitable up to 2006, but remained profitable throughout the ensuing 5 years, but just not profitable enough to service all that debt. So we knew on the management team here that the 5-year instruments that we used to acquire the company, that we were not going to be able to refinance them sort of in the normal course with rolling it over into new debt instruments, that we would need a mix of debt and equity. And that's what happened this past June. And as regards our U.S. business, it was a pretty normal investment transaction from a private equity firm, Hilco UK. And as regards the Canadian, some of the Canadian units, we have a big manufacturing and a distribution business in Canada. And some of those Canadian units had some legacy costs, some past service pensions, some leases that weren't needed, and a very high-cost labor agreement. And so the business went through kind of a formal restructuring process. The Canadian units did. We don't call it Chapter 11 up in here, but it was one of those kind of prepackaged restructurings. And the company came out of that, of course, much stronger with much lower debt load, and we were able to shed some leases of some distribution centers that we hadn't been occupying for several years. And particular bright spot, when you do a formal restructuring, you have the opportunity to talk to your workforce about the realities of the business and the aggressive Dalton-based competition that we have in the carpet business. And I have to say that we have very long tenure employees, average tenure more than 15 years, and very loyal workforce. Came to the table, really renegotiated our labor agreements for the Canadian manufacturing units in a very flexible way, gave us $1 an hour on the wages, and all told that was probably about $1.8 million of manufacturing cost savings just out of that agreement. So these restructurings are always a little turbulent, and we had a little bit of bumps in the summer on some of the service levels, but I would say it's really put the company on a much stronger foothold with, we're going forward with much lower operating costs and much lower debt load, and we're able to, with the last couple of months now, been able to go back to focusing on running the business and the product marketplace and not so much on the balance sheet. I think we're probably past the worst of this recession, and as we see demand coming back to our industry, it's nice to pursue opportunities with a stronger balance sheet than we had going into these troubles.
Well, Walter, this is good to hear because we're curious what had happened up there, and if you let the rumors run around, you hear all kinds of crazy things. So basically, you've cleaned up your balance sheet. It's really just a debt restructuring, and the same people are in charge, and you basically have the same. I know you have at least one plant up in Canada. You also have a fiber operation. And it sounds like the same workers are working there, and things are starting to look better. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say mostly the team is unchanged. I'm happy to say that the Hilco UK guys, the private equity guys who've made the major investment in Kraus,
right,
have, we expected when we began to work with them that they would teach us a thing or two about cash management and financial reporting and
right,
measurement, and that's the sort of things that private equity is famous for. What's been a real pleasant surprise is the particular investment firm has a real expertise on the industrial side. They own, among other things, Denby Pottery, the sort of famous British pottery, and they had over time a number of heavy industry holdings, and they brought in some of their manufacturing experts. And it's really interesting when you get people from outside your industry look at your plant. Over the years we've had different people join our manufacturing team from other carpet manufacturers, but I think this is really the first time when we've had new senior-level insight from outside the carpet and flooring industry. I remember one of these guys walked around our plant one day, and he says, see that hole of compressed air? It was this hole maybe the size of a dime. He says, that hole costs about $40,000 a year, and a piece of yarn is running through that's like, a piece of string. He says, if that hole were the size of a pea, that would cost you $10,000 a year. And so, I would say the first afternoon walking through the tour, we quickly made some modifications. We were able to take 2 compressors offline, and our electricity consumption fell in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay. Well, one brand we hear down here that is associated with you guys is Barrett. What's happened with the Barrett operation?
Yeah, Barrett is our Main Street commercial brand, and we are continuing to grow in that product. It had historically been primarily a broadloom brand, and we're adding a collection of Main Street commercial carpet tiles to that brand. Beyond the main Kraus brand, which is our largest brand, which is half carpet and half flooring, and distributed primarily across North America. We also have the Barrett brand, which is a little more focused collection on the commercial Main Street market. And, of course, in Australia, we have our North State brand, where we have our North State subsidiary, which is a commercial mill down there.
So you've made these balance sheet changes. You've had some people come in and increase your efficiencies. And I guess you've done some strategic changes from a product standpoint, too. Talk a little bit about what you're doing for the business moving forward.
Main Street commercial has always been a core area for Kraus. I think if people who only have heard of us a little bit, they say, yeah, those Kraus guys, they're the zipper lock people. They got that, middle-priced commercial carpet that's guaranteed not to run and ravel. And I would say that zipper lock and stain-proof, no exceptions, commercial carpet with a lifetime commercial stain guarantee, those have been sort of core strengths at Kraus. And we used to be able to make our famous zipper lock carpets only with small patterns, up to maybe an inch by an inch. And we put in some new digital technology here and done some proprietary mods to it, where we're launching a lot of collections that take that zipper lock interlocking carpet construction into new fashion areas, where we can have big patterns, like 2-foot by 2-foot patterns, the kind of things that people are getting used to from all the carpet tile they're seeing. So I would say Main Street commercial has always been a core area, but our core commercial broadloom business, we're adding a lot more zipper lock pattern to that business. And the other part of Main Street is carpet tile is becoming more and more important.
Right.
I think if you talk to a flooring contractor who does a lot of specified and bid work, those guys have made the switch from broadloom to tile for a few years now. But in the retail commercial area, people are still more in the more rolls than boxes.
Right.
One of the things we're doing at Kraus is often Main Street means making product that's quite similar to $25 specified product and, value engineering it for more Main Street price points. And so just like our Main Street broadloom, is a lot like specified broadloom but $5 or $10 cheaper, Kraus is doing the same thing there on carpet tile, and we're launching a new Main Street carpet tile display with a lot of carpet tile in the $10 to $15 range, whereas over in the hard contract side, you get tile more $15 to $20 for negotiated work and over $20 for specified work. So we're kind of bringing carpet tile down to price points where in the marketplace it hasn't been seen before.
Just for an understanding of our listeners, if you'd help me with just a couple of quick questions, talking about market share, that kind of thing. If you looked at your business and you said, X percentage is residential and X percentage of it's commercial, how would that break out?
Well, Kraus is about a $200 million company, about half Canadian and half U.S. Our sales are about half and half, maybe a little more in the U.S. And our North American sales are about half carpet and half flooring. Our flooring is more residential than commercial. It's hardwood, laminate, vinyl, and so on. But our commercial carpet business tilts towards the commercial side. And I would say our carpet business has a real strength in middle-priced commercial. Particularly, we do a lot of work on retailer-driven commercial, less than specified commercial.
That's got a good rundown on the business. Just recently I was with a group of people, and they were talking about business conditions, and we heard that in Canada the recession is still lagging on just a little bit longer. Business conditions are a little softer. Can you confirm that for me?
Yeah, I would say this big recession the U.S. was first in, and it seems to be coming first out. Although the CRI numbers overall for carpet seem pretty flat in the U.S. market, but I would say in Canada the early years of this recession, 08-09, were much better than the U.S. But there's no question it's a little more sluggish here. Our Canadian business is something like flat, and we think we've picked up a little bit of share this year. We see retail and single-family builder quite soft in Canada. I'd say the commercial side, and particularly the multifamily side, there's still some condo construction happening in different markets in Canada, are a little brighter. But the year started okay, but I think we've seen a lot of air come out of particularly the retail and single-family builder segments in Canada. And on the flooring side, Canada's a big laminate market. Probably laminate has twice the share of the flooring business in Canada that it has in the U.S.
Is that right?
And that's a business where actually this year we picked up some share. In the U.S., I think the laminate space has been a tough space as LVT has made a lot of inroads there. Right. And I guess Kraus, like everybody else, is making a lot of investments in the LVT area.
All right, Walter, we're about to run out of time. I appreciate you spending time with us. Again, we've been talking to Walter Eckhardt, who's CEO with Kraus in Canada, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.